Hey everyone, Harry here to talk about the state of play with the prohibition in Arizona on abortions, or the border lines they've now drawn. So recall, was an 1864 law passed before Arizona even was a state, and that just went into slumber. The law calls it desuetude in the Roe versus Wade era, and had stayed that way, but had never been taken off the books. So in sort of, opposite of Sleeping Beauty form, when Dobbs comes along and overrules Roe versus Wade, it's still dormant and, awakening in a sort of monstrous fashion, because it provides for essentially no exceptions, no abortions at all, other than to save the life of the mother. And there's all kinds of testimony of horrific situations that nevertheless don't immediately threaten the life of the mother, but threaten her health, her continuing fertility, potentially her life if things go a little bit awry. But under the law, medical service providers just have to stay their hand or risk, I think it's a 5-year sentence for imprisonment. And this is the latest example of, for Republicans, the dog that caught the car in the wake of Dobbs. They had very strong, in Arizona in particular, very strong anti-choice state, which was easy enough to be when the federal constitution prohibited acting on it. But now, things had really broken out into the open, and there were the majority of Republican legislators in Arizona who thought this, resumption of the 1864 law was just hunky-dory, and that was on the books. Now, in 2022, after Dobbs, the legislature had passed a 15-week ban. Again, no exception for rape or incest, and only for the life of the mother. So some of the same exigencies that fall short of an actual life-threatening situation still play out there. A similar thing has happened in Florida, by the way, which has now entered into. Let's just cut this out because I don't know about Florida exceptions. As the Supreme Court, which heard challenges to the case, asked Justice Kagan, is this the kind of, let's just forget this as well. But when we come back, you may have to tell me a little bit, because is this the one that the court just heard? Okay, so that's the state of play, and Arizona Republicans were left looking very immoderate, though some of them, the staunchest pro-life, anti-choice legislators, were just fine with it. But yesterday, the Arizona decided finally to repeal this almost 200-year-old law. It actually was a very close and contentious vote. It was 16-14. That involved all the Democratic senators, and all the Republicans, save 2, voted against, in other words, to keep the 1864 law on the books, but those 2 were enough for a 16-14 vote. So as of the vote, is to now make the 2022 15-week ban go into effect, but not immediately. So we still have a lot of problems until the 2022 law goes into effect, and that takes a certain number of weeks after the end of the legislature, et cetera, and until that time, there's still grievous situations in Arizona involving women who appear maybe not even having known they were pregnant, and threatened with health emergencies somewhat short of life-threatening, who may have to be helicoptered to another state where treatment can ensue, because under the 1864 law, an emergency room provider who acted to, in fact, give proper and appropriate care to a patient in that situation could find himself or herself charged with a felony and an up to 5-year penalty. So Arizona takes a step back, notwithstanding its sort of absolutist anti-choice rhetoric, and tries to sweep the 1864 law off the books in favor of a still pretty restrictive 2022 law, but that won't go into effect immediately. So for now, still a grievous situation for women with emergent but not life-threatening situations that might call for termination of pregnancies in Arizona. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.